Tower is in danger. So let's record the Eiffel Tower, why the Eiffel Tower is in danger. Alright boys and girls, let's get ready to watch and see why the heck Eiffel Tower is in danger. So they are making a 64 million race to save the Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower is in danger. The landmark has survived an occupation, 2 world wars, and the prospect of demolition back in 1903. But all of those threats pale in comparison to the tower's greatest enemy, rust. For more than a century, this iconic monument has been fighting an uphill battle against the wind and rain of Paris. A battle that it might now be losing. This is the $64 million fight to save the Eiffel Tower.
Okay, how?
So, the Eiffel Tower was never supposed to be standing for this long. It was meant as a temporary monument for the 1889 World's Fair, to rise over Paris for just 20 years before being torn down.
Okay.
Now, 135 years later, it's not only still standing, but has cemented itself as one of the most beloved and iconic structures in the world.
Right, back.
But the tower is starting to show its age.
The famous Paris landmark and the symbol of love, the Eiffel Tower, is crumbling, and the only solution to stop its decay is a full renovation.
Ideally, the tower was meant to be repainted every 7 years.
Yeah,
but
that
the
was
last
I
restoration
was
effort
thinking.
was
So they will have to
thanks to the
repaint the
pandemic.
whole thing?
Now it's in the middle of a $64 million repaint to make it presentable for the 2024 Paris Olympics. However, some experts...
but yeah, I guess this came before Olympics. No, 2 weeks ago though. So they repainted it just before the Olympics started, I guess.
Criticised this repaint as being little more than a cosmetic touch-up, which does...
Damn, 64 million just for paint? That's a lot of money, man.
...address the advanced state of rust the tower is now in. In a confidential report leaked to French magazine Marianne, one unnamed manager said that if Gustave Eiffel, the engineer behind the tower, had visited it today, he'd have had a heart attack. Now, Gustave Eiffel actually anticipated that rust would be a problem for this tower, and he put in place plans to cope with it. But first, he had to convince Parisians not to tear it down altogether. It's the 80s. Not those 80s, the 1880s.
Whoa.
Paris was set to host the World's Fair at the end of the decade, and the city needed something spectacular. It was to be the centenary of the French Revolution, and Paris wanted to show off the engineering skill of the French people.
Well, engineering was really on steroids in the late 19th century, and the French called it La Belle
Damn, yeah,
Époque.
imagine how they made this thing in
confidence
80s,
was high, progress was embraced, and I guess personal and corporate and national wealth was also growing. They seemingly, for a while, engineers almost could do anything that was asked of them.
Gustave Eiffel won a competition to design a glittering new monument with his plan for a 1,000-foot tower that was to be by far the tallest man-made structure on Earth. It would handily beat the then-current tallest, the Washington Monument. And actually before that, the tallest structures in the world were all churches and the pyramids.
The Eiffel Tower was special because it was, by some considerable margin, the tallest man-made structure in the world at the time. It was 1,000 feet high when completed, 300 meters. And it retained that position as the tallest man-made structure for 40 years.
While Eiffel is now synonymous with the tower that takes his name, he was also one of the greatest engineering minds of the 19th century. Among his many achievements were the Porto Viaduct and the Statue of Liberty. His initial designs for the Eiffel Tower took his engineering concepts to incredible new heights. The first challenge was figuring out how to build something that tall that wasn't also impossibly heavy.
All that engineering.
When the Washington Monument was being built, it kept sinking into the ground because of the enormous weight of all the marble and granite it's formed from. Eiffel solved this problem by making his tower out of iron, a lightweight but strong material. It looked quite literally like something from a Jules Verne novel. A large pylon with 4 columns made of latticework girders that met at the top. To make it more palatable to the general public, architect Stephen Silvestre was brought on board to tidy up the design. He gave us the stonework legs, the arches that link the columns with the first levels, and the bulb-like crown at the top.
The first thing to point out is that the original concept for the Eiffel Tower was not Gustave Eiffel himself. It was two of his employees, Maurice Koechlin and Émile Nouguier. And they worked in their own time and prepared designs for this idea that they had for the 1889 exposition. And they showed their drawings to Gustave. Silvestre was asked to improve the aesthetic of what they had come up with as engineering solutions to a very tall tower.
Because nothing like this had ever been built before, Eiffel had to take special consideration of the enormous wind pressures the tower would face at varying heights.
The wind resistance is a really neat feature of Eiffel's approach to the design, and the analogies with great trees,
because it has holes in it,
where,
so wind can easily pass,
where the trunk gets progressively broader and broader as it gets to the root system.
The distinctive curves are the product of Eiffel's mathematical equations to create the most wind-resistant form. If the tower had been built as a simple straight line, it would have wobbled dangerously back and forth. This design tricks the wind into travelling downwards. The lattice structure also evenly distributes loads across the framework so that when high winds do hit, it remains stable. Today, those calculations would be tested out with models on computers well before the tower was constructed. But back then, Eiffel only had his theories. They were gambling 2 years of work and the modern equivalency of $37 million.
Wow.
The pressure was immense. Construction began on July 1st, 1887. While the Washington Monument took several decades to build, the Eiffel Tower took just 22 months.
But it was really cleverly built. It was efficiently built in only 2 years, which is quite impressive, and had a fairly small workforce of a few hundred only, steel workers and then teams of painters, of course. And Eiffel used some really smart techniques for craneage that was designed to climb the sides of the tower on lift rails as progressively the tower emerged.
Bro, all those guys knew what they are doing, you know?
But the structure wasn't built where it is today. Every part of it was made in Eiffel's factories on the outskirts of Paris.
Really?
All 18,000 pieces were then taken to the Champs de Mars and assembled to an accuracy of 1/10 of a millimetre, like a giant Lego set. At one point, there were up to 300 workers on site using small steam cranes and scaffolding to build the tower. More than 2.5 million rivets would hold it all together. Then, on December 7th, 1887, all 4 of the girders met in the middle and began their vertical ascent upwards, racing into the sky. Finally, it was given 4 coats of red lead paint. That's right, the Eiffel Tower once more closely resembled the Golden Gate Bridge than the bronze structure it is today. The tallest tower on Earth and a wonder of the modern world was then marked complete, and the French absolutely hated it. Parisians are not known for their restraint when it comes to handing out critiques. It is, after all, a French word. The tower was labelled a truly tragic street lamp, a half-built factory pipe, and incomplete, confused, and deformed.
They are roasted the hell out of it,
To his credit, Gustave Eiffel worked tirelessly to defend his structure. He asked his detractors could there not be beauty within his engineering marvel.
Public opinion was, I think, a different story, and that was steadily improving as the tower was growing. By the time it opened in 1879, it had 2 million visitors in the first 6 months. Now, that doesn't suggest it was an unwelcome imposition on the, general Parisians or visitors to the exposition. So it very, very quickly became a worldwide icon.
The tower was set to be torn down in 20 short years, and in 1903, plans for demolition were seriously considered. To try and save the tower, Eiffel funded several scientific uses for it, ranging from meteorological observations to wireless telegraphy. It even became of particular military interest when they found it could transmit and receive long-distance signals. All of these efforts ultimately helped to save the tower, and even to this day, it plays a vital role in television and radio broadcasts.
Oh, so it
now,
have some kind
after
of
decades of hard work, all Eiffel could hope for was that future generations would take care of his monuments as well as he had.
Cool.
A series of reports over the last few years have turned up some troubling results. One in 2010 urged the operating company for the tower to come up with a completely new maintenance policy. One in 2014 found cracks and rusting throughout the structure, and that only 10% of the new paint was actually adhering to the tower. Another in 2016 showed there were 885 faults, including 68 that posed serious risk to its durability.
Whoa,
a third of the tower was set to be stripped and have 2 new coats applied. But thanks to delays caused by the pandemic and worrying levels of lead in the old paint, only 5% of the tower is now being treated. Unfortunately, 5%? Experts are warning that this $64 million repaint could actually make defects in the existing layer of paint worse, resulting in more corrosion, while the operating company is nervous to close the tower for any extended periods of time. You see, the Eiffel Tower attracts some 7 million visitors and brings in nearly 100 million euros of revenue every year.
Right.
And unfortunately, the operating costs can often exceed that number. Painting the tower is no easy task.
So they'll have to like paint it and all that. They'll have to close it up, and if they close up, the tourists won't come. There won't be much attraction, and that means there won't be much money coming in. So I guess that's one key point too.
It was 135 years ago, with scaffolding or painters abseiling off the side of the structure. They strip, clean and apply rust proofing before adding a final coat of paint. The tower is built using puddle iron. In theory, a material that could last forever as long as it's maintained and prevented from rusting.
As long as
it's
maintained.
If this multi-million-dollar repaint proves to be just a band-aid, then it's going to be up to future Parisians to ensure the integrity of the monument.
Alright.
The Eiffel Tower is one of those rare structures that has transcended the rivets and bolts it's made of. It's more than just an observation structure or antenna or a glitzy monument for a long ago exhibition. It's one of the most recognisable buildings in the world. In that way, Gustave Eiffel has ended up having the last laugh against all of his critics. He was right. There is an astounding and timeless beauty in his engineering.
I would be absolutely delighted that the tower is still there after all these years, and would feel also partly vindicated that his life left an enduring legacy that now not just Parisians but the world loves, and would be greatly saddened if there ever came a time when the tower had to be demolished for safety reasons.
Very informative video. I always like these kinds of videos for real. But yeah, overall, it's like, it's like they wanna do it, but if they do it, they'll have to close it up, which means money won't come in. And as they said, they did kind of painted it, before the Olympics, but it costed $64 million, and of course it's bringing way more money than $64 million per year. But overall, bro, shout out to those guys, especially what was his name, Steven, man, like big brain guys, man. Even in 1880s they were able to do this with way less facilities, way less machinery, all that, and they made this iconic, tower, iconic building. Yeah. And I hope they do something about the rust and, rust and all those issues, because it at the end it could, if they don't do it, the steel could get bad and it can come into it can like go into a big, incident, like a safety issue, for the people using the lift to go up and, seeing the whole view. It can be a problem. So yeah, I hope they fix it on time. And yeah, that really good video by B1M, and I have seen their few old videos as well on some stadiums, but yeah, this one was really good information on like from where it started and where it is. Like so old, big brain, like those engineers killed it, dude, killed it. Like, but the new thing I learned is like it was in different place before and now it's on different place. I really thought it was at same exact place where it has been even before, you know, like it's never moved. So it was on a different place, different spot before. So this one is a new one, I guess, or different one, whatever. But yeah, that was cool to learn. But yeah, overall I hope I get to see too. If you have seen, cool, but I have not. I hope I get to go to France, especially Paris, to see this thing, man. Yeah, but yeah, overall good video. B1M.